I was pretty dumbstruck by it. I had not followed it as closely as you had, but I remember yesterday watching Jose Baez's summation and saying to myself, if I was a juror, this guy is poking a lot of holes in what I thought was a pretty obvious story of this woman's guilt. But I thought there was enough to get her on manslaughter if you looked at the big picture. I thought murder won the state blue, but manslaughter, I'm personally looking forward to Keeping Up with the Anthonys, which E just announced.
Yeah, Keeping Up with the Anthonys. Yeah, when is it starting?
It will be out in a month, I believe. They're in pre-production right now. I believe limos will be picking Casey up from jail on Monday.
She's getting off. I mean, she'll be on Monday.
I'm looking forward to a new season of Celebrity Apprentice.
No, this is it. And I told everybody, and I got so many emails when I said this. I turned around, and the lights are not even on in the studio. Hang on. I am worked up. I am so worked up. This is what I slept in last night.
Right.
I'm so worked up. I called it. I've been calling this for weeks now. I've been saying how there is no way she's gonna get first degree. The defense, the prosecutor did not do a good enough job of proving that she did this with any intent.
I mean, I think, don't you think that plays into it that you said, you touched on it earlier, she's an attractive 23-year-old girl. Maybe if they didn't put death on the table, it wouldn't have, because the jury already starts to sympathize with her. Nobody wants to sign somebody's death warrant unless you're 100% sure.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's funny because you talk about what she did, right? Everybody knows she did it. Everybody knows. There was more proof in this case than the OJ case. I mean, you look at the OJ case.
We don't know how she did it. I think that's the thing.
That's the thing. You don't know. Well, no, you don't know how she died. There's no cause of death. Nobody knows what the cause of death was. So there's no cause of death. If you don't know what the cause of death is, how are you going to give her first-degree murder?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, OJ, everybody knew how Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman died.
Yeah, you have no idea how this girl died. It is
and that's, I think, a big thing in people's head because it really is just, a ton of circumstantial events surrounding the actual death, which we don't know the method used.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, what did you think? You thought it was going to be, you thought they were going to get at least manslaughter, right?
I thought they were going to get at least manslaughter because I think if you look at it in terms of the big picture and you look at just the amount of false information she's giving to the police and the amount of backpedaling and the amount of covering her tracks that she's doing. And listen, I was a juror on a murder trial. I know that the last thing people want to do is convict someone of first-degree murder. And we did.
You were there. Yours was a murder trial.
It was murder. I mean, it was murder, first degree. It took us, 3 days, 72 hours, going over evidence, listening to tapes. You feel a weight when you're convicting somebody. You feel that.
By the way, hang on. I got to patch in. There's a press conference Jose Baez is holding right now.
Okay, I'm watching right now.
Here. You're still on. I'm just patching it in.
Who stood behind me and who supported me throughout this time. And especially the man who took me under his wing and made sure that I stayed focused and that we continued to work hard and that we continued to fight and battle. It really is, I really do have mixed feelings over the whole situation for those facts. This case has brought on new challenges for all of us.
Yeah, made his career.
Challenges in the criminal justice system, challenges in the media, and I think we should all take this as an opportunity to learn and to realize that you cannot convict someone until they've had their day in court. We have the greatest constitution in the world, and if the media and other members of the public do not respect it, it will become meaningless. And today and yesterday on the 4th of July, there was a breath of life in it, and
not from Caylee Anthony.
No. He goes. It's been justice has been served for Caylee. No, it has not.
I think.
Right. I mean, there's no way to even argue that justice has been served for Caylee.
Acknowledge the prosecutors who worked hard.
By the way, we're tapped into headline news, breaking news. The defense attorney Jose Baez is speaking right now.
A fine group of prosecutors. Linda Drain Burdick is an incredible adversary, and I think that she's certainly one of the best lawyers I've ever seen. Frank George also was a very important member of that team that really held them together and made them very cohesive, a cohesive unit. And Mr. Ashton is a fierce opponent, and
unbelievable.
I think that the state of Florida, all three of them served the state of Florida very well. As I said, I'm not I'm very happy for Casey. I'm ecstatic for her, and I want her to be able to grieve and grow and somehow get her life back together.
That was Jose Baez, the defense attorney, lead defense attorney for Caylee Anthony. I'm blown away. I don't even know what to say. I have no idea what to say.
He is holding back a ton of excitement right now.
Yeah.
You could see he's physically very excited, but he's unable to express that.
Once again, Caylee Anthony, the trial that we have been covering here on the network, pretty much on every show we've been discussing this trial. I know Lunatic Radio's been covering it. We've been covering it on the Free For All and on the Andrew Zarian Show. Just found not guilty on first-degree murder, manslaughter, pretty much every count except for lying to I think it's like 4 or 5 counts of lying to an officer, which she will be probably released. You're guessing by Monday for time served.
I'm not a legal expert, but she's been in jail, what, a year?
No, a little over a year, I believe. About 2 years.
Over a year.
No, 2 years.
How much more time are they going to tack on for providing false statements to police? I don't even know.
Well, you know what's funny? I went to, there was a website, I forgot what it was, and they were doing, and I posted on our Twitter, calculating how much time she will serve.
Right.
And they didn't even allow you to put not guilty. It said, first degree, aggravated abuse to a child, manslaughter, whatever they are. There was no area for not guilty. And in the counts, it didn't even tell you jail time, because I think a lot of times if you lie to an officer, it just fines. She's going to be,
what do you think? Do you think the 3 networks will bid on an interview for her?
Oh yeah, they're gonna,
right?
She's a millionaire walking out of that jail cell.
Right.
She steps foot on ground. She's a millionaire.
Right.
She has it made for killing her kid. I'm telling you, it's crazy. You know what? The best thing would be nobody gives her a dime.
Well, that would be great. I mean, listen, I'm upset that she walked, but there's always a silver lining to every cloud, and that is, of course, as you said, Nancy Grace. Yeah,
I know. I'm telling you what's going to happen already. Jose Baez is gonna become her pimp agent.
Right.
they're gonna go to all these. They're gonna go to all these news organizations and broker a deal. He's gonna become like her manager.
Jose Baez will be standing behind her like her father, like a protective father.
Yeah.
And he's gonna really capitalize on her.
Yeah, I'm telling you, this is it. He made his career. This guy made his career, and people were calling him an idiot.
Right.
They were saying this guy's an idiot. He's a dummy. He's a horrible attorney.
I mean, people who knew nothing about the law were saying this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Apparently, they're wrong.
I'm blown away. I'm blown away. He has made his career. This guy. Would you consider him a good lawyer? I think he's a great lawyer. He got this murderer off the convictions.
It's very interesting how he got the jury to kind of really throw out common sense.
Yeah.
With this barrage of facts, some that had to do with the case, some that didn't. And like you said, you used the word, which I think was the most apt word, was confused. He confused the jury. I mean, it is just really something to watch this, and they keep playing on Fox News. They keep playing her face over and over again, and it is just,
Here, let's tap back into headline news.
Yes, we have all the public
let's tap back
documents.
into. There we go. That's me. I apologize for that. Once again, here's headline news.
12 folks in the box.
They're the ones
that make the call.
Ones who vote. I want to go to David Mattingly. He's sitting outside the courtroom, the courthouse. David, what is the sense there? What are you seeing? What are you hearing?
Well, we're seeing a crowd gathering out in front of the courthouse right now. The tent you might be able to see behind me was actually set up in advance, where it was anticipated that the prosecutors and the Orange County Sheriff would come out and make their remarks.
People are storming the courthouse.
Really?
Hundreds of people there.
But right now, all the action still inside that courtroom. The next words in the postscript to this long tragedy will be coming from the jurors.
But a little update: Jose Baez's official website is down.
Into that room and take their seats in front of the camera. It's going to be very interesting to hear what they have to say. If it truly was reasonable doubt in the prosecution's case, maybe some of the holes that.
I have to tell you, Baez.
Very interesting to all of us who've been watching this for so long. What was it that told them that they could not convict Caylee Anthony? And I would have to disagree with Jose Baez to say that there are no winners here. Caylee Anthony was very much on trial for her life. She will not be facing that now. It's possible she could get a year maximum for each of those misdemeanor charges that she's facing.
Although having served 3 years in prison and having been acquitted on the more serious charges, chances are some people were wondering why they didn't ask for her to be let go immediately. But again, that's going to happen on Thursday, I believe it is. I want to bring in Jeff Toobin, because Jeff, you worked as a prosecutor.
She's done 3 years already.
Right. I didn't even put that together, that she's been in there 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years she's been in there.
That is pretty amazing. It's just a statement of the way time flies.
I mean, this is mind-blowing.
I remember when this first happened, people felt bad for her. Nobody suspected her immediately. And as time went on,
I remember the first week they didn't, and the nanny, and then everything just started piecing together. But here was a mistake the media did. The media convicted her of being guilty from day one. And it was extremely biased. As being a media, the media cannot pick a side, right? You look at Nancy Grace, and she convinced you that she's guilty. And I said from day one, I said, well, they had no body. So the prosecutor knew, the state knew they were not going to be able to get murder. They found that body, and they just freaked out. They ruined the case because they put the death penalty back on the line. They should have never put death on the line. Never put it on. That's single-handedly, that's the only reason why they found her not guilty of all these charges, because death was on the line. So fine, they didn't get first degree. I cannot see why they didn't give manslaughter. And I've been saying this for weeks. I'm the one saying they will not convict her. We had this discussion on Sunday, Tim, in front of everybody, and everybody looked at me like I was crazy when I said they're not going to convict her.
Right.
She's going to get off. The most she'll do is a year.
I didn't think she was going to walk, and this is basically what she's doing. She's walking out of there Thursday, like you said, with more money than she's ever seen in her life.
Yeah, she's walking out a millionaire.
She's walking out a millionaire. There's a producer in VH1 right now doing a jig.
Yeah. I'm telling you, the networks are already from inside information, from something that I've heard, not necessarily inside information, but from things that I have heard from people inside the industry. They already have shows lined up for her.
It's amazing.
They already have, and there are people out there that are. I'm telling you, she's going to get $1 million, $2 million, $3 million interview, and I wouldn't be surprised if people pay her upwards up to $5 million for an interview. I will not be surprised.
That's startling.
Yeah.
Those numbers are pretty amazing for the. I mean, how many jurors do you think in the next couple of days will come out and say, you know what, she may have had something to do with it? It was just we can't convict her because the state didn't prove the case.
The state did prove something. The state proved she acted irrationally after the child disappears. That's all the state proved. The state proved she did wacky things after the kid went missing. And my argument to that would be, yes, wouldn't you if your child was missing? Now, that's the angle that the defense took. The defense took a great angle. The defense took the angle. You know what the defense did? They fought everything. They didn't just fight one thing. They threw 1,000 things out at you and convinced you that it was everything. Everybody. The guy who found the body moved the body, which I don't know what that has to do with murder. And they said, well, we don't think he's guilty of anything. We just feel that we don't even think that he hid the body. We just feel that he moved the body. They threw the child molestation out at first, and it was not admissible in the closing arguments, the child molestation, because they did not prove that. The Google searches were flawed. That whole thing was flawed. And another thing, they had a coroner on there, and he said it was a shoddy autopsy. Right. The autopsy was not done properly, so there was no cause of death. So how can you convict her of murdering the child in a certain way or committing the crime in a certain way if that certain way has not been proved by the state?
Well, that's why I didn't think murder one there was a chance in hell of murder one. But I thought that a manslaughter conviction where you'd see her do, like you said, 5 years, because she's clearly involved some way in this child's death. I believe she at the very least, covered this up and more likely is responsible either directly or indirectly for the actual death of her daughter.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think we all knew that she did not intend to murder the child. That was not the argument. I don't think anybody here could say, yes, she intended on killing the child. It was an accidental death, that we do know. By the way, just in, Nancy Grace just shit her pants. This just
Nancy Grace has to leave studio.
I'm telling you, she actually came out and said right before he goes, he goes, I could guarantee she's getting murder one. There's no way, and they had all these experts, right? This just shows you these legal experts know as much as the weatherman knows.
First of all, they're all legal experts. None of them are trying actual cases.
No. Yeah, let's go back to headline news for a second.
And clearly not rendering a verdict before a verdict is rendered. We want to go to Jeff Toobin. You want to comment on this? Come out of it, the fact that she's not guilty, first-degree murder, not guilty, aggravated manslaughter. Jeff, go ahead.
Well, I just want to make the point that the argument here is that the media had too much influence. Nancy Grace was on television for 3 years saying she was guilty, and the jury said otherwise. Michael Jackson, also acquitted. O.J. Simpson, also acquitted. William Kennedy Smith, also acquitted. So the idea that a lot of press scrutiny leads to juries that are very anxious to convict, I think is belied by the facts. Personally, I don't think the government needs to get involved. I think it is a good subject for the media to evaluate on our own about whether we do a good job or a bad job, but I don't think we need government regulation of what people say or report in the news.
And clearly the most important thing right now, the people that everyone's going to want to hear from are the jurors, to see what they were thinking, how they were thinking, and also Caylee Anthony. The big question, where does she go now? What is her home now? Jeff, thanks so much.
Tell you where she goes. Jose Baez puts her in an apartment and starts pimping her.
Right.
That's what happens.
Where is her home now? It's called VH1.
Yeah, VH1, True TV.
Celebrity Rehab Season 7.
The media, and they do have a point. In my opinion, I think because they made this such a high-profile case, the media, that is single-handedly the reason why she was found not guilty. If this was not a high-profile case, and I want the audience to weigh in on this, and we have a couple people in the chat room, and Tim, I want your opinion too. Would the media, if the media had not made this a high-profile case, if this was just some mom in Florida and it was very small local coverage on this, would they have convicted her not guilty?
I mean, it's tough to know. I think when they make it a high-profile case, and I think, to be honest with you, I think possibly, because even if it wasn't a high-profile case, I think just having the death penalty on the table and having a 23-year-old girl who doesn't look like she could kill a fly.
Yeah.
Sitting behind that desk. I think the fact that it's high profile adds a whole nother dimension to it. But I think your actions as a juror, there's a gravity to what you're doing. If this was a defendant that looked like me, for example, if Caylee Anthony looked like me, I would have been convicted on the second day of testimony.
Yeah, I think what she looked like had a lot to do with it. And no matter how evil the media made her out to be, she's still this, 5 foot, barely 5 foot, 100-pound girl.
Right. If it was me or Coco in that chair, you're telling me that we wouldn't have been convicted immediately?
Yeah, here's one thing, and Piedmont in the room, Kunal would have been convicted day one. Piedmont in the room says something really interesting. The media absolutely had influenced the case. Yes, and it's interesting because the media was on the total other side. They were backing the prosecutor. They were backing the state. They were saying that she is guilty, and it totally twisted on them. Is it a way that they, and the jury is influenced by the media. They are watching this. No matter how many times people say, no, I knew nothing about the case.
Were they sequestered, Andrew?
They were sequestered, yeah. They've been sequestered for the duration of the trial, but they are still influenced by this. There's different ways to get the information. There's different ways you can search. And this was such a high-profile case. Everybody knew going in what the case was. Everybody knew. And I think a lot of people already had an idea of what she had done, and they might have felt guilty. They might have felt that because they had this opinion prior to being on that jury, they had to rule the other way. I think that also has a lot to do with it.
There was not too many people who, when they asked, have you ever heard of this case, who could say no, honestly.
I've been following this case. Jessica and I have been following this case for years, way before anybody even, became this high-profile case. We were always following it on Nancy Grace, and it was this, I would tell people, do you follow the Caylee Anthony trial? And they would say they had no idea what it was. It really became a circus the last 8 months. It became this huge thing. Here's the judge repeating for people who missed it. This is courtesy of CNN Headline News.
In the Circuit Court for the 9th Judicial Circuit in and for Orange County, Florida, State of Florida versus Caylee Marie Anthony. As to case number 2008 CF 15606-0. As to the charge of first-degree murder, verdict as to count 1, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty, so say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, on this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of aggravated child abuse, verdict as to count 2, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty, so say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of aggravated manslaughter of a child, verdict as to count 3, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty, so say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of providing false information to a law enforcement officer, verdict as to count 4. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of providing false information to a law enforcement officer.
Right.
That's all she got.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty much all.
We find Caylee Anthony guilty of driving with a suspended license.
Yeah. That's about it.
Right.
I mean,
and look at this gorgeous little girl who's 3 years old. This picture is on Fox News right now. Nobody has any clue how this girl was killed.
Yeah, except for, the alleged killer.
That's... So when Jose Baez says this is justice for Caylee, how? Someone's got to press him on that and say, in what world is this justice for Caylee Anthony?
Yeah, this is interesting. Now, I think there's going to be a lot of allegedly is going to be thrown because, you have to remember a lot of the news coverage had convicted her prior, and they were throwing out the, she's going to be convicted of first degree. She killed her kid.
Right.
There's, the jury acquitted her. Does this mean reform for our jury system in this country? I mean, this is... I don't even know what to say.
I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. I think that you had it right when you said the state probably bears the brunt of the blame here.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. Because, listen, if I was on a jury, Andrew, and I think this chick is as guilty as could be, I don't know. I don't think you could convict her on murder 1. I don't think there's an argument that you can really convict her in a court of law on murder 1 when you don't know how the child was killed.
Yeah. And
is there enough evidence to convict her on manslaughter? You know what? Circumstantially, if you use common sense, absolutely. When you look, is there enough reasonable doubt to get her off manslaughter? You know what? Perhaps. Unfortunately, perhaps there is enough reasonable doubt that there is unfortunately now the only other crime that they have her on is providing false information. Now you would say, why would an innocent person do that? Why would an innocent person who is concerned with her daughter and finding the truth continually lie to police? And cover her tracks. What is her motivation for doing that?
Well, according to her, she was searching for the kidnapper at that point. She was searching.
Right. This is one of those things where, here's a question, do you think if she was involved with this at any point, because there's no such thing as double jeopardy, she'll never be tried again, do you think she'll ever admit what happened?
No, I don't think so. You know what? She did not crack whatsoever, and they tried everything. If you saw the interrogation videos, she was trying everything to just throw out a line. She was saying no, I didn't do it, and the cops and the detectives did everything. You're going to go to jail. You're going to get fried. Everything. And she did not crack. And she did not crack in that courtroom at any given time. And they even offered her, there was a plea bargain on the table for her to admit.
What was the plea bargain?
I think it was, I don't remember exactly, so I can't speak. I can't give you a number, but I remember it was no death and possibly, maybe 40 years or maybe it was just life in jail.
Right.
And she was confident in her case. Maybe she knows something we don't know.
I mean, I think you said it, when you say really the Jose Baez is to be commended here for going there and, really confusing 12 people.
Yeah. That's exactly what he did. That's exactly what he did. You're absolutely right on that. He confused 12 people.
Yeah. And I mean, with a case like this, there were so many facets of it that seemingly had nothing to do with the actual case that you wonder how much room is in someone's head.
Yeah. Or, it could have been that this jury was so exhausted and a couple people said they can't acquit her and they said, F it. That could happen too.
I'm telling you, I think we live in a society that is so influenced by physical looks. I think if she looked like Roseanne,
she would have been convicted. Absolutely.
She would have been convicted.
And I said that. We had people over on Sunday. We had a barbecue here. And I said that, and people looked at me like I was crazy when I said she's not going to be found.
I think you're right. I think people just don't look at her and go, in order for me to convict this pretty young thing, I need a murder weapon. I want to see a YouTube crime of the video. A YouTube video of the crime.
I don't know. This just says, and they moved it to Pinellas County. I don't know if you remember that, but the trial was moved to Pinellas County because it is a more conservative, more, they were afraid to prosecute her in Orlando. They were afraid because they're saying they might be too liberal there. So they moved it to Pinellas County, which is an older group of people, and they are more bound to convict for a murder.
Right.
And they moved it to Pinellas County for that reason, and they did not convict her. Was that a big mistake from the prosecutor, from the state? I think that was a huge mistake.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it's one of those things that seem to, bite them in the ass at the end,
Yeah, I think Ashton screwed. He ruined himself. I mean, this is a veteran prosecutor. How was
this
he
will
not
be the only case that he's really?
Yeah.
This will be the case he thinks about till he takes the dirt nap.
Yeah, he. I don't know how she blew it. I don't know how. I'm sorry. I don't know how he blew this case. And did he really blow it? Because I think, he did have He had a very strong case, but I think there were so many gaps in the story that they did not fill, but the defense filled with confusion. The gaps were old. I mean, they brought in an alleged girlfriend of the father. Made him out to be this cheating guy, an abusive guy, and they showed that the suicide didn't help either. Because that actually is very interesting. If you're not guilty, why are you killing yourself? That was their argument about that. He bought a gun, and they also proved that he is a aggressive type guy because in the closing arguments. They were talking about how he bought a gun and he was going to pretty much like a vigilante hold a gun up at people's heads and say, "Where is my granddaughter?" That just shows you his character, right? Because that's not a legal thing. That's not a right thing to do. A sane person will not do that.
Right. It to me seems like Jose Baez was very successful in taking the attention away from Caylee.
Yeah.
And her actions, which were that of a guilty person.
Yeah.
That's the only issue. Caylee acted very guilty.
They
very guilty.
The prosecutor was saying how she's a very smart girl. It was a very orchestrated murder, and the things that she did were very orchestrated. And I think that also hurt their case because the defense came out and said, okay, fine, you're saying that it's this orchestrated murder and she's this genius, this criminal genius that she killed the kid and she moved the kid and she hid the kid and she came up with all these lies, but she was yet so stupid to take the body and dump it 12 houses down from her house. How does that make sense?
That, and that to me, when I heard that and I was sitting next to you, that still to me is odd.
That is still odd. Why would you take the kid? My personal belief is that she did do this. She allegedly did murder her child. This is my personal belief. Actually, let me tap into what people on the street are saying. 1 second.
Okay.
This is Headline News, CNN, courtesy.
And you know it. And people are saying that it was okay. She didn't get away with this. I can't even talk. I'm appalled by this. I thought, look at my hands.
Does everybody agree with you? I do. I guess because it wasn't posted on her Facebook page and it wasn't on social media, they didn't have it on tape.
That's exactly what you just said.
An imagination also?
Yeah,
I'm shocked.
Just a crying shame, an absolute crying shame this is. They call this justice. They say the American flag flies today. It does not. It does anything but fly today. Well, it's been trampled on today.
They say justice does work, and that's what it is. It's kind of like the same with the O.J. Simpson case, the same situation.
Scott Peterson case.
Yes. OJ number 2.
OJ number 2. That's what you're hearing here. OJ number 2. And I got to take you over here. Now, we're waiting for the lawyers to come out. You can see all the media has gathered.
It is not OJ number 2, first of all. OJ murdered 2 adults. She murdered her 3-year-old child, so it's not the same thing. And you can't put them together. And with OJ, OJ
was also in the Naked Gun movies.
He was a celebrity.
National figure.
Yeah, he was a national figure. And the same with Michael Jackson. They're comparing this to Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was a pop star, world-renowned, worshipped by people.
This
so
is
I could see how they could.
Florida.
Yeah. Well, no stripper, but could be a stripper.
Right.
Very, very
She's
well.
stripperish.
Very stripperish. Now, and no matter what the prosecutor did by, their closing argument was, I think one of the last things they said was, who had the motive to do this? Who benefited from Caylee being gone? Was it the father? The grandfather didn't benefit. The mother didn't benefit. This proves that this one person benefited. They put up a picture of Casey with the tattoo that said Bella Vita, or living a good life in Italian.
Right.
And it goes, this is who benefited from having Caylee gone. I don't think that really proved anything. Again, this is all circumstantial evidence. None of this really proved that she took the chloroform and put it. And that was a big thing. When they found that chloroform, everybody said that wasn't a nail in the coffin for her. And I said, well, who uses chloroform to kill somebody? That doesn't prove anything. And I'm speaking as a what the attorneys will say.
Right.
That doesn't prove that she was going to kill the kid with chloroform. That only proves that she could have possibly drugged the kid to put the kid to sleep, because that's what, that was actually a lot of the stuff that was saying. And I think the media started saying that.
Who puts a kid to sleep with chloroform?
Yeah. I mean, you're not a villain from, like, vaudeville films.
Right.
You're not going to tie the person up on the train tracks and wait till the train goes over them. I mean, this is a weird thing to do.
I mean, to me, the whole chloroform, and it was really
botchy. Yeah, it was botchy. It was a botchy job by the
these people smell, look, taste, feel guilty.
Yeah.
Just the way they're acting. Their own actions are that of people who have something to hide.
And the prosecutor was saying, well, the dead body in the car. The mother smelled the dead body in the car, and they played that tape. And the mother's not an expert on decomposed body, and I don't think anybody I don't think anybody that smelled that scent is an expert on the scent of decomposed body.
I do comedy in New York City. I've smelled dead bodies in several venues.
Yeah, I'm sure you have.
and it doesn't turn out to be a body. It's actually a live body that smells like a dead body.
All jurors have refused to comment on the verdict, by the way.
Really? See, that? Well, I told you, I was the only idiot on News 12. I was so excited.
Oh, you went and you commented.
Oh, I went right on, and they said, what convicted the defendant? And I said, the defendant's own words. I was the only juror who got on. We'll get that clip from News 12. That's really funny.
You have it? Where is it?
I don't have it. It's on. You know what? It was on News 12's site, and then I don't know what happened because I tried to find it a couple of times. But yeah, I was the only juror, and everybody kept their mouth shut except I couldn't because the press launched at me, and they said, "Well, that was rather quick," and I said, I'm not going to take that, and I kind of got into it with them. But
does your name come
I think these jurors will talk eventually.
Does your name come up in the website?
No, it was anonymous. I didn't use my name because I didn't want retribution.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if I was a Caylee Anthony juror, I would be I would be on the Nancy Grace show tonight.
I'm sure somebody will. I'm sure they're going to pay somebody to go up and do it.
Right.
This is just, I don't know.
I think maybe the jurors are afraid that they're going to get some retribution because people are not happy about this.
People are not happy, but, if you listen to those people screaming and crying, those aren't normal people either.
No, they're not.
Those are not normal people either, and I don't know. The case, if you just go based on what was presented to you and not make an opinion based on other crimes and other things, I could see how somebody could not convict her of these charges.
It's also the courtroom is much different than a bar.
Yeah.
You're not convicting her at a barbecue. It's a court. There's the law. You have to apply the law. There's a thing called reasonable doubt. There's a burden of proof that has to be met. All of these things play into your head. There's a 23-year-old girl that you could potentially send to the death chamber. That's different than just walking down the street and going, I heard that story. It sounds fishy. Fire.
Yeah.
It's I just want to know for you, what are you going to do now that this is over?
I have nothing to cover anymore. What is Nancy Grace going to do? That's what I want to know.
You and Nancy Grace may need to go to a support group that meets in the basement of a church.
I've been worked up on this case, and I followed it like a crazy person. And
because you know what it was? It had all the facets. It had everything. It was one of those. It's a young, attractive defendant it's an unspeakable crime.
Yeah.
And you have a cast of characters that rivals any reality show on television. With how crazy these people are. You have molestation. You have this girl dancing and clubbing. It's also grotesque, and you can't look away.
But also, the other side of the argument is this the behavior of a guilty person? If you just murdered your child or your child just died and you knew it, would you go out and party like that? How disconnected of a person are you?
How about this? If your child just died, whether you did it or not, would you go out and party like that?
Yeah.
I'd be honest with you. I don't know if Mrs. Anthony is the most mentally stable human being.
Oh, no, she's definitely not. Oh, the mother? You mean the mother?
I mean the mother, and I mean Caylee Anthony too. I don't know that I buy that she's this hardened criminal that's brilliant and making all these very cautious moves. She may be a little whacked.
Yeah, no. I think she's really whacked, but that family is not a you're not getting the greatest family there either. There's something going on in that family. There's something really weird going on.
The family from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre look well adjusted.
Yeah.
The Anthony clan is fitting is deserving of some type of extended press coverage.
Yeah, it's something. You know what I think will happen? I think she will definitely write a book, and the book will not talk about anything about Casey's murder, but we'll talk Caylee's murder, I should say. But we'll talk about the alleged molestation, and the abuse,
and how the media convicted her and all of this stuff.
Yeah. I think that's what it'll be, and maybe a little bit about her daughter. I made the joke and I said, well, now we're definitely going to get her, the search for Caylee, the search for the real killer, and she'll be on the golf course.
Right.
I think we're going to, were you going to see that?
I think it would be great if she was arrested a week from now beating someone up in a Vegas hotel room.
You know what? Karma is a bitch, right? Karma comes back to bite you in the ass. Who knows what the and I'll tell you something. The state of Florida, it will look for a reason to put her in jail. So she
if
better.
If I was her, I would leave Florida.
Get the hell out of Florida.
Get out of there.
Listen, I'm telling you what's going to happen. The best place she could go is L.A. because that's a state that can't convict you on anything. Yep. A city that can't convict you on anything. California will not convict you on anything.
Right. Hollywood. Yeah, man. She belongs in the land of dreams.
I'm telling you, this is the craziness of this country. Now she will become a celebrity. TMZ will be following her when she gets out of Nobu.
I mean, whether there was enough to convict her or not, that's something people could argue about. But the fact that she'll become a multimillionaire, that is sickening.
I don't even know what to say. I'm just seeing it now. I'm thinking about it. TMZ will be following her. She'll be getting out of Nobu. They'll be asking her how she is. If she has a feeling what really happened. She's going to talk about her book. She's going to be dating Michael Lohan very soon. I'm telling you, we are going to see these things.
Right.
First of all, the movie rights, I believe, are there. Somebody owns the movie rights right now.
Really?
I was trying, and they were talking about a Casey. I'm just going to look it up. And then we have dinner tonight.
That is going to be, who is playing Caylee Anthony? Winona Ryder. Maybe.
Let's see. Who will star in the Caylee Anthony? They're saying, let's see, rumor named Kristen Stewart from Twilight.
Yeah, she's okay. She's got that trashy thing going on.
So this is actually just news that just came out a couple minutes ago. There are reports that Hollywood is already looking to cast a movie adaptation of the Caylee Anthony story. Kristen Stewart, number 21, has been tossed around as the lead role, according to reports. I mean, this is just already. I'm telling you, she's going to be another Amy Fisher.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's pretty much. But I think right now, with how fast everything moves, she's going to capitalize on this.
Yeah.
A lot more than Amy Fisher will.
Oh, she did sell him. She sold him to help her pay her legal defense fees, and I don't quote me on this. I'm sure Baez has something tied in with that.
Yeah, I mean, you think that Baez is going to be on her like white on rice?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, definitely. I cannot imagine how Baez will not capitalize on this in the coming years.
Well, I think he's already built his name as an attorney on this case. It's tragic because as crazy as this is, and as much as you can, joke around, and I joke around because you have to get through life, but I'm looking at this girl, this poor, innocent 3-year-old girl, and you wonder, why in God's name?
Yeah. Well, you know what? How about Alyssa Milano? Alyssa Milano should play.
Kristen Stewart, so that. Alyssa Milano, Winona Ryder, we're classing it up a bit.
Yeah. Drew Barrymore. Let's just name everybody that played Amy Fisher.
How about Brittany Murphy in her current condition?
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're going. I don't know that. I don't know that Alyssa Milano. I mean, I think Kristen Stewart. That's the perfect. Kristen Stewart looks exactly Southern Florida.
Who's going to want to play that role?
Well, that's another thing.
Who wants to play that?
That's another thing. Who wants to do that? It'll be an interesting. It'll be an interesting movie if they do make it.
I think the coming days and months and the coming the days and months are possibly a year is going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. She might self-destruct. Maybe the guilt.
Well, that's the thing. She could. She's the wild card.
Yeah. I mean, what if she goes out there and says, "Ha F you all. I did it and I got away with it." What are you going to do then?
I don't think that she'll do that.
Oh, she's nutty.
But I think anything is possible. I think she could. Does she use drugs and alcohol? Is that? I don't know. That she does
the rumors are that she, allegedly she drinks when she parties and she does smoke pot, and allegedly some pills also. People are talking about pills.
She could slip off the deep end because this has got to be a ton to walk around with, But I was thinking manslaughter.
Yeah, I said they're not going to be able to convict her, but I was really thinking they would possibly convict her of manslaughter.
Murder one is out. Nobody knows how the kid died. Fine. But, it just doesn't feel right to let her walk out of a courtroom.
Yeah, I would like to know why not murder one, why not manslaughter? Why, right. I could understand murder one. I could understand that, but I cannot understand why you could not convict her of the and second degree. Okay, fine, I could understand that too, but how could you not convict her of manslaughter at least? I wonder what that was
now
like.
The prosecutors are going to come out. This is going to be. What do you think they say?
Can they appeal the verdict?
I don't know.
No, I don't think they can.
I don't believe so.
No. The defense could appeal it. They cannot appeal it.
Prosecutors cannot.
Now, is there a? I mean, can they? The parents could possibly. The grandparents cannot. I was thinking, is there going to be a civil trial, much like the OJ trial?
That could be an issue, but there you need less proof to convict someone. Yeah. But I don't believe that. I don't believe there will be. Yeah, I don't know, but it certainly is a possibility. But what do you think the prosecutors would get out and say, listen, this is a miscarriage of justice?
Well, no, there is a civil suit. I mean, the civil suit is Zanny the Nanny, right? Definition suit. It's still happening.
Right, but I don't see her.
There's going to be nothing there. I mean, she's suing for money.
I don't think there'll be anything there, to be honest.
Yeah, she's suing for money. Really, it wasn't. She's suing on the fact that she is Zenaida Gonzalez and she is a nanny.
Right. I mean, I think that a jury is going to be most likely to convict her in the situation where they believe that she had something to do with the death of her child enough to warrant jail time.
I mean, listen, she is extremely numb, so maybe in her mind she does not feel that
people block it. Yeah, people block it out.
That she did it, that could also be it. Her behavior in the courtroom was extremely disconnected,
and indicative of somebody who literally might have blocked out whatever part she played in the death of her daughter. The guy that was convicted on my jury got up. He said, "I will not apologize for this because I did nothing wrong." This is after he's guilty, after the case has been closed. And he still holds true to the fact that he did nothing wrong. It's pretty sad.
I mean, what does it say about the? What does it
I
say
just
about
am worried about you because I'm worried about you having postpartum depression right now.
I don't know what to do.
I don't know what you're going to do. I hope somebody commits a crime immediately.
It's for me to follow it. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I really do. I hope that there's a high-profile committed crime tonight.
I don't know.
Which there will be because we don't go more than 3 months in this country without something.
Yeah, you know what was interesting after the Casey the Caylee Anthony thing happened. Nancy Grace, that was like a lull period where there was nothing happening, and Nancy Grace had moved on to Haley from Florida that went missing, and she abandoned that. Do you remember that trial? That
Well,
story?
I don't remember too much, but I just remember there was a string of people that went missing that Nancy Grace just tried to convict everybody for.
Yeah.
There's a girl that gone missing for 3 hours in a mall. Nancy Grace is calling her mother a murderer.
You know what? It's interesting. I'm looking at my Facebook, and everybody's pretty much commenting on Caylee Anthony, and many men are saying now I could go on a date with her. So that just shows you the thought process of many people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think you've got to have a little issue having sex with a murderer.
I don't think a lot of people are going to be able to do that.
A kid murderer. Somebody who murders an adult, that's a life choice. But a child murderer.
There are people, I'm looking here, there are people actually on my Facebook that do believe she did not commit any crime. And I think you are wrong if you think that. I think she did commit.
Right. They also are the same people who believe in unicorns.
Oh, yeah, she did do something. The jury did not convict her of that.
Yeah, I don't think you could look at this woman and say her actions are indicative of an innocent person who had nothing to hide. She had something to hide. Why? We don't know. We don't know if she wanted the kid. We don't know if this is an accidental death. We don't know. We can't state for certain, what her motives are for acting the way she did. Maybe she's just crazy.
She was even acquitted of aggravated child abuse.
Yeah, she's acquitted of everything.
Everything.
She was acquitted of everything.
Let's go to CNN headline news once again before we wrap this up.
Yeah.
Point of interest for anybody in this city. Yesterday, 4th of July, and over the 4th of July weekend, we saw a lot of people coming here, sometimes entire families with their cameras, just to have their pictures taken in front of this building, perhaps see somebody who was with the trial walking out, just sort of as a tourism type of attraction. This has been something that's captured the attention of so many people, so if they were in the neighborhood, if they had the time, sure, they were going to come down and see who they could see. Everybody who's been a part of that trial, all the attorneys, they've been elevated to a celebrity status in this area. I saw people wearing T-shirts for the past couple of days celebrating the prosecutors. One of them said Team Ashton on it. So there were people who were not only interested in watching this play out, there were genuine fans of the participants in this courtroom. And someone who's feeling probably very vindicated today is Jose Baez, who was on the receiving end of a tremendous amount of criticism for the way he was defending Caylee Anthony and for the way he was handling himself in the court. It's clear that when he approached the jury in closing arguments and said, look at this evidence, this is where reasonable doubt lives. Apparently, the jury was listening to him. They looked at the information and the facts that the prosecution had given them, and they decided there just was not enough there to render a guilty verdict. So everyone outside the courtroom, and regardless of how this has turned out, really soaking in the spectacle today. You can probably hear the helicopters buzzing around up above. There have been people, since the word has come down, the crowd has grown, probably doubled in the last hour. So we're just watching as people are when they're coming down, just like they are watching who's going to come out, who's going to talk.
I mean, that says perfectly. I mean, we made them into celebrities, right? We picked the side, and it was like a baseball game.
Right.
It became a sporting event for the people watching this.
And that's unfortunate because it does kind of obscure the fact that at heart this is a horrible crime.
This is unreal. Jose Baez, in my opinion, should never practice law again. Just hang it up and go out with a home run.
Oh, I thought you were going to go out with Caylee Anthony.
Those rumors have existed.
I thought you just go out with Caylee and Jose premiering this fall on E.
Yeah. I listen. I swear to you, I will not be surprised if we see all of this. Caylee Anthony was hanging out at the time that she was.
I'll tell you one career that she doesn't have a future in. That's babysitting.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody's going to be giving their child to her. One thing that I did notice, that I not noticed, but heard was when she was, before she was put to jail and they were trying to, do the handoff and everything, she was hanging out in the law offices of Jose Baez, and she was acting as a secretary, and she would pick up the phone as a secretary, and she was doing secretarial work for him.
Right.
They have a very strong relationship, and isn't that bizarre? I mean, do we not think about that? How she allegedly murdered her child. She's going to be put on trial, and she's doing secretarial work for the lawyer. Isn't there something strange there?
I mean, I'm telling you right now, I'm amazed that she was answering the phone in Jose Baez's office.
Yeah. I mean, that says something.
That is not a attorney-client relationship.
No, that's not normal at all.
I've had attorneys for speeding tickets and things like that. I mean, suspended license, nothing that approaches this. But I don't believe that I was handling their secretarial work for them. There's something going on. You think he was doing her?
I don't want to say. I don't want to start any rumors, but I mean they might. Listen, it's a very strange relationship that they had.
Perhaps they found love in the midst of this.
I don't know. Listen. You do work very closely. You do, and it happens a lot of times where you. a lot of, I don't want to say anything out of turn. That's all. I think a lot of people, working that close together, it can do something. I think there are certain feelings and connections that are created when you work so close to each other.
I'm just amazed. I'm watching here on Fox News. They haven't, they haven't shown too much. I mean, they're just showing these pictures of this beautiful young girl.
Now, Tim, before we wrap up, because we have dinner reservations for this evening.
Yes, we do.
Before we,
I'm sure we will talk about these Caylee Anthony trial.
I'm going to get heated at dinner, and I don't think it's the type of place to get heated over dinner.
We'll be in a corner. We'll be fine.
Okay. What should I wear?
Jeans, a button,
okay.
Casual.
Okay.
It's relaxed. It's fun. Summer.
I think, I don't even know what I was saying at this point, but I do feel that we're going to get more information, and this is going to become even a bigger circus than it is. It's a shame. It really is a shame that there was no conviction whatsoever. Judicially, I don't feel that. I feel that first degree would have been too much because the prosecutor did not do a good enough case. The state did not do a good enough case to convict her of first degree murder, even though we know, there is. We have our opinions, and we do know. We think we know what happened, but in the courtroom, you're right. You cannot go based on your theory of what Nancy Grace thinks or what the news and the media has said.
Well, you got to apply the law. And in this case, I was not in that courtroom. I think you, for all intents and purposes, were.
I was there, yeah.
You may have a handle on this as much as any jury, but there's a gravity to that decision that it's different. All these people that are running and screaming and yelling, when you're in that box and that person's life is in your hands, it is a different calculation in your head.
Well, I said it 2 weeks ago, and I said if I am in that courtroom, I don't think I would be able to convict her of first-degree murder based on what's presented to me. And a lot of people send me an email calling me an idiot, you're an effing idiot, or this, you're that, but I'm just going based on what has been presented to me by the legal teams. And there was not enough evidence of first-degree murder presented to me. Now, here's the other attorney for Caylee Anthony speaking.
I believe the prosecutors are coming on now.
Bias and prejudice and incompetent talking heads
this is still the
saying
defense.
What would be and how to be. I'm disgusted by some of the lawyers that have done this, and I can tell you that my colleagues from coast to coast and border to border have condemned this whole process of lawyers getting on television and talking about cases that they don't know a damn thing about and don't have the experience to back up their words or the law to do it. Now you've learned a lesson.
How about that? Sonny Hostin, you and I have been talking about this case for weeks in weeks here. Sonny, you heard that coast to coast, border to border, saying members of the media have eviscerated Caylee Anthony. What's your reaction to that? True?
I think he's right to say that. And Brooke, I've been covering this with you for about a month. I've been covering it in total probably a little over 2 years. And I have been very surprised at the slant that we have seen. I've tried to keep my comments and my coverage very, very neutral.
BS. That slant was there by everybody. Because, everybody knows what happened. I mean, everybody has an idea what happened. So, of course, you're going to be slanted if everything is pointing that she did something, but we don't know what exactly caused the child to die. It's disgusting, but, that's just what happened and how the prosecutor presented the case.
I mean, the prosecutor's got to be kicking themselves right about now.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what the prosecutor thinks they did wrong, and I think putting death on the table...
I think that's one of the most insightful things you've said, is that changed the dynamic of the entire thing.
Yeah, they got a little excited when they found the body and they put death back on the table, but if they had not put death on the table... Even though first degree does not necessarily mean you're going to be convicted of the death penalty, just because it was in there, I think a lot of people could not convict her of that. Now, for the other charges, I don't know why they did not convict her on those. I'm really curious to know why they did not at least convict her of manslaughter. But I'm sure they had a reason. You're talking about 12 individuals. Here, I believe the prosecutors are going to speak right now. This is the state coming to the podium to speak to the media.
Here's my question.
I'm really curious, and then we're going to wrap it up because I have to leave. And this was very impromptu. I'm still in my shirt that I slept in, my AC/DC shirt. I apologize. It is not very professional to be covering a trial, but here they are.
Let's just listen in.
Obviously, so I'm going to try to speak clearly. A little bit of housekeeping before we begin, just to let you know how this is going to flow. We have State Attorney Lawson Lamar, who's going to make a few comments. He'll be followed by Orange County Sheriff Jerry Demings. After Sheriff Demings speaks, we will conclude the presser. This afternoon, I'd like to remind you, is not an opportunity for independent interviews with the prosecution or with law enforcement or investigative officials. So now I'd like to introduce State Attorney Lawson Lamar and Orange County Sheriff Demings.
I want to thank you all for this opportunity to speak. About 34 months ago, October of 2008, I stood in the courtyard behind us after the grand jury indicted Caylee Anthony for the murder of her daughter, and I said that we would not discuss this case outside of the courtroom, and I am pleased to say that we have not until this time. At that time, I also said that the indictment was not a conviction and that the defendant is always cloaked with the presumption of innocence. I promised that we would do our talking in court. We did. For us, the case has never been about the defendant in particular. It has always been about seeking justice for Caylee and speaking on her behalf. Some have exploited the case for personal gain, ad revenues, or 15 minutes of fame. And since day one, we have kept our promise that we would be focusing on finding and proving the truth about this child's homicide. The pretrial publicity generated by others has led to the great expense of having to seek a jury outside of our media market. We have avoided making any statements that would feed the publicity and have only released what Florida public records law requires us to release. That is whatever documents we furnish in discovery. So much of the angst and taxpayer expense in this case could have been avoided if others had not succumbed to the temptation provided by quick notoriety. We think that justice is best served when counsel does not render public opinions on matters of litigation. We have always tried to prevent the issuance of any statements that were not relevant and that all relevant statements be made in the courtroom. There are a number of professional, dedicated, and talented people who persevered to bring this case to its conclusion. Linda Drain Burdick led the team with great skill and energy. Jeff Ashton built a precision forensic case, and Frank George presented a series of complex witnesses. This trial team is world-class and in command of the evidence. They did it skillfully and without histrionics. I'd like to thank the jury for their contribution to justice. The task they were asked to complete was difficult, and this community owes them a debt of gratitude. Ours is a fact-driven process, and we've had a lot of help gathering the facts. The lead agency in this case has been the Orange County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Jerry Demings has led a great team, a team I shall forever be proud of, and I want to thank him very personally for the excellent work that he and his department have done in order to bring. So
pretty much, you know, they're saying that they are not upset at the verdict, and the verdict was to reach justice. And
sounds like a very generic statement.
Yeah, here's the sheriff's department.
It is my duty and privilege to stand before you this afternoon to make a few brief comments as we have now come to the close of the murder trial involving Caylee Marie Anthony. I must acknowledge my investigative team who stands with me this afternoon. As we have just celebrated the 4th of July, Independence Day, we celebrate the United States of America and what freedom means to each of us. We must remember that men and women have died in our armed forces and law enforcement to protect the rights of others
like us, who value freedom, independence, and life. For 3 long years, the citizens of Orange County have sought justice in the death of 2-year-old Caylee Marie Anthony. On December 11, 2008, Caylee's remains were discovered. The Orange County Sheriff's Office has been involved in the criminal investigation of her disappearance and death since July of 2008. There have been numerous individuals and agencies that have assisted us during the investigation and prosecution.
So pretty much just summing it up, but you know, we are wrapping it up here. Tim, I want to thank you for joining me for this 1 hour of insane coverage that I did.
Andrew, as always, that hour went by in like 10 minutes.
I know.
It's very fast, and I just can't wait. I'm gonna take 20 minutes off, and I'll see you to continue this discussion very shortly.
Yeah, I'll see you tonight, Tim.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.